Hi everybody, yes, I'm on vacation, but I am going to recap the morning of day one of the penalty phase for Wade Wilson. Wade Wilson was convicted of the October 7th, 2019 murders of Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz. He was also convicted of assault for his girlfriend, which he did between the two murders, and some other random charges, and which are the least of his problems. So because of that first degree murder conviction, this is in the state of Florida, the death penalty is on the table. The jury was asked to come back on Thursday for the death penalty portion of this trial after they convicted him of those two murders. They came back Thursday. It was continued because the defense was not ready yet. So it started this morning, and I'm going to recap the opening statements for you and some of the first few witnesses. The rest I will bring to you tomorrow, which includes the prosecution's psychiatrist, which I'm sure he's going to have some interesting things to say. So here's what happens in the penalty phase. The prosecution is going to point out aggravating factors. The defense is going to point out mitigating factors. And the jury's job is to figure out which one outweighs the other. If the aggravating factors outweigh the mitigating factors, then they can decide if this warrants the death penalty. If the mitigating factors outweigh the aggravating factors, then he would get life in prison without the possibility of parole. So the prosecution got up and they said they were going to talk about 4 aggravating factors for these first degree murders. And the first being that this was cold, calculated, and premeditated. So he first talked about Christine Wilson's murder, and he said that she was selected, secluded, and strangled. In his own words, Wade Wilson said he felt like he was a lion going after his prey. He was using a fake name, and he was going after people that he had power over. This is a big guy. I think he's 6'2" or 3". He's a big guy. And so he goes after this small woman, thinking she's not going to put up too much of a struggle. Then he goes to her home, after he's gained her trust, they've had sex. He goes to her home that morning with Miss Johnson. He waits for Miss Johnson to leave so he can be alone with this person who's now trusting him. He waits for her to fall asleep, and this is by his own admission to his father. He waits for her to fall asleep, and then he bludgeons her and strangles her. Then with Diane Ruiz's murder, in his own words, he said he had already done it, so he was going to do it again. And he approaches her, he befriends her, she was walking to work. He befriends her, convinces her to get into his car. And he, in his own words to his father, I was going to drop her off. But in my mind, I knew that I wasn't. That sounds premeditated to me. Then he goes on further to say that she came back to life 3 or 4 times during the strangling. And so the defense argument against this aggravating factor is that in order to prove that these were premeditated, there has to be a substantial period of reflection. So his argument to the jury is there was no substantial period of reflection. Okay. And he makes these statements during the opening with no backup, but he says, these are things I'm going to argue during my closing. So I guess we're going to wait for that. Then the next aggravating factor is this a crime that was, or are these murders crimes that were especially heinous? First, he talked about Christine Melton's, and he said there was a large number of bruises, her eyes, her liver, her lungs, her bowel, everything was bruised within her body. Indicating she had, the medical examiner would have said that she had a high degree of pain and he had utter indifference for that pain. So then on Diane Ruiz, she had multiple fractures all over her body, bruising, and she was run over several times by a car. So he said both of them struggled for the last moment of their lives, and that struggle was pretty intense. And then the defense's argument against this mitigating or aggravating factor is that the jury has to find that it was especially heinous, and there's no definition for especially. So yes, it was heinous, but was it especially heinous? Okay, that's for the jury to decide. I'm gonna say, yeah. Okay, then were there contemporary, I can't say this word, contemporaneous convictions? And obviously there were. He was convicted of both these first degree murders contemporaneously. And was there a use of violence? Well, yes, there was. So the defense said they're not arguing against this. That, yes, we'll grant you that. And then the next factor is that the defendant was on probation for felony in Palm Beach County and had only been sentenced 2.5 weeks prior to these murders to probation. Now, we don't know what that conviction was for, but the defenses, they got up and they said, we're not going to argue this. The facts are the facts. Yes, he was on probation. So the first thing that we hear, then the defense gets up and does their opening, and he said, mitigating factor. This is supposed to be a mitigating factor here. When he was not on drugs, he was charming, polite, in a good mood, friendly, and outgoing. I don't know how that outweighs anything when he's not on drugs. The next mitigating factor is his mental illness. So he just said that they're going to have a neuropsychologist come on, and he's going to tell you why he believes this should be mitigating, and he's going to have a psychiatrist. And he says that we're not trying to excuse his conduct, but just to show that things were out of his control. Like he had a psychiatric illness that he couldn't control. And he also argued that, even if you give him life in prison, he's going to die in prison. Either way, he's going to die in prison. Okay. Then we heard victim impact statements. One person on behalf of Christine Melton, one person on behalf of Diane Ruiz. So Christine Melton's cousin got up and talked about her, how this impacted the family as a whole, how Christine's mom's health declined to the point where she had to move in with another sibling to have them take care of her. And she was not able to attend any of the trial. She just couldn't do it health-wise. And one thing I thought was really moving, and I did not realize this because, we were not privy to the photographs of the body, because they don't show those on the scene. But apparently when they found Christine Melton's body, her cat Monty, was that his name? Her cat Monty was lying next to her body. He was alive. He was lying there with her. Okay, I'm more swayed by the impact of the cat. It's terrible. I'm terrible. I'm sorry, but I'm a cat person. So sad. And then, she showed a picture of her with her cat Monty. Anyway, and then on Diane Ruiz's behalf, she has had two sons. The oldest son we heard from during the trial because he was home the day she disappeared and the police talked to him. The youngest son, he was 14 years old at the time. He's now 19 years old. He talked about that his mom, he had just started his freshman year. He was in the marching band, and the Friday after she was murdered would have been his first performance with the marching band. She never got to see him perform in the marching band. He goes on to be quite successful in the marching band, getting awards. He got a full ride scholarship to college. He's in college now. He's working as a graphic designer, and I'm not going to say it didn't impact him, but I think the impact on him is it motivated him to do well, and the impact was that his mom didn't get to see all of this, and that made him sad. He did say that when he was 15 years old, he, how did he put it? He said he almost killed himself because of missing his mother. So that was the morning session. They took a break. When they came back, the psychiatrist was on the stand. So that's where I'm going to pick up tonight after all of our daytime activities here while I'm on vacation. I'm going to listen to that, and I will recap that for you tomorrow in tomorrow's episode. So have a wonderful day, everybody. Take care. Love you. Bye.